Uh, Good afternoon, evening, morning, everybody. This is Frank Jordan with ERP Suites. I'm the director of JD Edwards Technology, and I've also got Carl DiGiovanni with me as well. He's one of our software engineers. Again, this is a less than 30 minutes, so this is a high level. We'll go through the agenda. Carl's going to show you some things on the orchestrator side. So we'll introduce ourselves real quick, go through. I'll show a little bit about what came in release 24 last year. We'll have some demos of that, and if we have time, we've got a Oracle digital assistant called Franklin as well. But if you have questions, go ahead and try to keep this interactive if we can. Okay, so like I said, I've been with ERP Suites now since 2012, also legacy Oracle, JD Edwards, and so forth. Go ahead and basically I am a CNC, so this is technology based, but most of this again is high level, where to go find things. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Carl, if you would.
Carl DiGiovanni. I work in our products group as one of our developers, kind of mostly focusing on Orchestrator these days.
Yeah, he is one of our orchestrator men for sure. All right, so as a quick demo, so we're going to try to show things as much as we have. It's not death by PowerPoint, but basically over here, make sure I bring up the right ones. There we go. So also just a quick aside, this is a Oracle Trial Edition. What I just used there was what we call our single sign-on solution. This is something with tools 9255 and later. But Carl's going to show you, basically, a lot of this is the OCI connector that was recently put out in 9282, which we'll talk about. I'll talk a little bit about that. But it is allowing you to use AI services or other OCI services, and Carl will kind of show some of this. So from a studio perspective, all this talk is about, it enables all these other elements. So from the key point here, it is a connection. So this connection, in this case, we've got a couple. One goes into object storage. The other goes to the API for document understanding, which basically, like you send in a PDF, it goes through, it can mark some of the elements, return a JSON, and read those type of things. It's scanning through the document based on the models that you're running, or custom model. So that's a high level. Like I said, I'll allude to it, but Thursday at 12 Eastern, I'll have a little bit more on kind of the steps that Oracle put together. So just as kind of the background, Oracle JD Edwards cannot natively add AI services into the product. So what they're doing is giving us tools so that we as business partners and customers, we can add the services, whatever type of REST service we want, into and integrate it into Enterprise One. So I actually like that a lot, because it allows us, just like with orchestrations, you can have whatever type of channel that you're wanting to use. I mean, it could be your desktop, it could be mobile, it could be an AI agent, whatever you want to throw that orchestration, have it talk to, the sky's the limit in that particular scenario. All right, so let's go back to the PowerPoint. If I go to the right one, sorry about that. Got to click them right. All right. So high level again, what they released last September, October in Tools 9282 this is great, because it allows us to now have the orchestrator connection, be able to pass a key, an API key, into the Oracle Cloud to verify you, and makes it really easy then to consume those. It was like, I think, 150 plus Oracle Cloud APIs. It's not just AI. There's infrastructure services, management of different things as well. So one of the things that's really interesting for us is, we're continuously learning. I know other partners are as well, and customers are starting to get into it. I'm part of the Quest Tech SIG. So we were having talks about it because a lot of this documentation just came out in January, February. So it's still relatively new, but there's a number of things that that you go through on that. So again, for example, it's not just orchestrator. You have to have knowledge about orchestrations and so forth, but you'll also have to have information and understanding of Oracle Cloud Services. And you also have to have the authority, of course, to be able to provide the security and the logins and those type of things to get to those APIs. And there's also what's called buckets or Oracle storage, where you're temporarily putting files in and out that you may have to pass along to the various services and so forth. But again, if you were to come into this to go to learn JDE, which I'll have some references here in a moment, but if you're going into it, basically, depending on your experience level and your expertise, it might be yourself, it might be a team, but it probably take 1 to 3 days to go through the documentations and the Oracle by examples and the lessons. They've done a really nice job. Give kudos to Oracle in that aspect of really documenting so that you can get through the nuances of doing this. This is not no code. I will say that it is low code, but it works pretty well. But a quick example here, if I wanted to see, you go to Learn JDE, and I put a link here to go to the AI site. So this is the area out on Learn JDE where you can go start getting started, how to implement it. They do a nice job, again, just kind of the actions and so forth of how to do that. And if I click on it, basically it just takes you to the site. Then, another one that I really like quite a bit, this one's the authenticate. Basically it talks about the augmentation. So this one is augmenting JD Edwards. Good one to start with. When you get onto the website, this one gives you a nice overview, kind of the task of what all these particular exercises are doing. Helps you understand. So it's kind of a little bit of a recipe or cookbook. It's not the step-by-step. The details are in other places, but it's really nice to have that information there at your fingertips. So this will be, again, another good document in that respect. But a quick example here, though, of how it's authenticating using that connector, the API key connector. You have your Enterprise One users, you've got your orchestrations. At certain points, they need to go talk to an OCI service. Like this one could be authenticating in and putting a file into a storage bucket. Then it has to talk to an AI service that has to go grab that file, do something with it. Then something comes back, and then you delete the file, as an example. But the security, again, your E1 security for your orchestrations applies just like it has in the past. All that part is there. And then on top of that, within Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, OCI, there's the security that is there present as well. So you have two different sides that has to be coordinated and worked through. A lot of good resources. I won't go and click through each of these, but I'm just going to go a high level. The API reference. So this is those 150 APIs plus we're talking about. So again, if you want to know about the AI document understanding, you come down here to document understanding, you expand it out, and you can take a look at the reference information, what parameters, how you posted examples, and so forth. So this is a way to discover what those can do. Another good one. These are learning library, the OLL, the Oracle Learning Library. So if you want to go in and look at it, I'm not logged in, so it's probably going to prompt me. Hey, I got lucky. But again, this is a nice overview on AI and what their strategy, what JD Edwards' strategy is, referencing back to what I was talking about, not being embedded directly in. So again, lots of good reading. If you like to read, there's no problem here. But if you like to do, the next slide I have will take you through the doing. Same deal here, FAQs. Again, at your leisure, go ahead and look at that. And here's the learning path. So this is how to do the orchestrations, how to set up the various pieces to get to OCI and so forth. So again, this presentation will be available for some reason. If not, we have our email addresses as well. But this can take you through all of that, so you've got a good idea and get an appreciation of the steps involved to be able to implement this. Or like I said, as a number of customers, leverage a business partner, teach you to fish on your own so that you can build on that. Once you get the initial pieces in place and you got your OCI house in order, this starts, it's like cotton candy. It just keeps going and going. All right, so I'm going to stop here and stop sharing, and I will pass over to you, Carl.
Okay.
So there we go.
Okay. So part of what we're doing in our products and AI teams right now are kind of diving into each of the different areas of AI that are available in OCI. One of the areas that we're working on is with document understanding, where we can take say a PDF file or image and run it through there and have it kind of pull the data off of it. So what I'm going to go through today is just a quick demo showing how we're starting to use it and how you can communicate with OCI to send a file to it, kick off document understanding, and then how to get the results back from it and do stuff with it. The kind of the two prerequisites that we'll need, one in the orchestrator side that kind of Frank touched on, was needing those connections set up that allow us to communicate with OCI. And for launching document understanding, you're going to need at least two. One to communicate with the OCI object storage APIs, and another to communicate with the document understanding. The OCI is object storage is where we're going to put the file that document understanding is going to process, and it in turn is going to put another file back in object storage that we'll need to pull down and parse. Like I said, we're kind of I'm just going to go through a quick example of document understanding. As far as the models that are out there, Oracle does have some pre-trained models for things like capturing data off of, say, expense receipts or supplier invoices or driver's licenses or passports. But you're also able to create your own custom models, and that's part of what some of the members of my team that are part of the same team I'm on are working on, are kind of training some of these custom models under document understanding. The basic steps that we're going to look at, and I'll hop over to Orchestrator in a second to show these, are in order to get document understanding to work through Orchestrators, we need to send a file to OCI object storage, and that could be a PDF or an image file. And we're going to use a Rust connector for doing that, using the object storage connection that's set up in Orchestrator. The next step is going to be to actually launch document understanding and pass it some parameters to say, okay, go run this model, or and what it's going to do is go grab that file that you tell it where this file is in object storage. It's going to go out, grab it, and do its thing based on how it's trained and set up. And it's ultimately going to return, it's going to place another file, a JSON file, back into object storage, and then return some values telling us where it is in there. So back on the orchestrator side, we're going to need to take those values, build a string to be able to go get that JSON, which we'll do in the fourth step here. Pull that down. Now we'll have JSON that we can parse. And then the last step is to remove that JSON file just to keep the OCI buckets clean. Once we have it, then it's, we can create another step in there to parse the JSON and then do whatever we want with it. So probably easier to show it quickly. So I'm an orchestrator here. What I'm going to do is start with just a basic, just kind of a kind of a foundational orchestration here we have that has those 5 steps needed. One, to put the file up into object storage. A second one here to kick off document understanding, and it's going to return those values. I chose that we're going to need to get to the path of where that JSON is. I chose to write it in a Groovy step, but you could also do this as a logic extension. You just need kind of one of those custom steps to be able to concatenate different values to get into a string. This step here is going to go get that file from the JSON result that document understanding generated, and pull it down into Orchestrator so that we can have some JSON to parse. And then this last step just simply goes out and deletes that JSON file from object storage. Just to run a quick example of that, I'm just going to come out here, and I have some PDFs that I have. We're just going to take this information and add it to the address book. So if I take this example, drop it in there just to show you what the output that we get back. It's going to run through those 5 steps, and this orchestration is going to return that JSON output that it pulls down from OCI, that document understanding generated. You'll see there's a lot of stuff in here. It's not all going to be relevant for what we want to do here. The one area that we do kind of want to look at, because we're basically taking that and doing some key value pair extractions. And this is all based on how that model's trained. But we're able to get, the name of the field that's defined in the model, the document understanding model, and then the value that document understanding got for this particular example. So now that we have that, I kind of have a second orchestration that is going to utilize that first orchestration. So you'll see that it just has those steps. And now we're going to take it a step forward and do something with the values it returned. Again, I chose to just write a Groovy script for doing this. You could do this in logic extensions if you're inclined to do it that way. But we're basically going to take that JSON, we're going to parse it, take the values that we get out of it then, and then just map it in. We're going to use a form request in this example to just basically create an address book entry for it. And then once that's successful, actually attach the PDF that we submit to it to that address book entry. Again, once you parse it, you could do whatever other things you want to do with it. Maybe send it in a message or notification. Maybe you need to send it somewhere else using another REST API or other kind of database connection, but it's up to you what you want to do with it. But if I run this other orchestration that's actually going to combine all that stuff together, grab that same file. This completes. So now I have created that address book record, and you'll see that it's in there now. I have the attachment of that PDF that we used to generate it, and we just basically mapped in name, address information. So that's out there too. You could then, because it's just now we're just creating orchestrations to make that call. I've also kind of added a form extension here. If I wanted to do this right from here, this form extension just adds a button that calls that same orchestration. I could run and drop another file in there. And then once it returns, I have it return the name up here, so I can just use that to search for what it just created. Oops, I forgot to clean up my old entry there, but I do have the same idea, just running it from a different spot, passing the address book information. So that's I think that's basically all I wanted to go through there, just to show a quick example of what you can do with document understanding and how you can use Orchestrator to make those calls. And as Frank pointed out, there are those other APIs out there for all the different other document understanding is just one piece of the AI services that are available in OCI. There are all those other APIs that you could imagine that you could use kind of in a similar fashion once you dive into those. But hope that gives a quick example, an idea of what you could do with those APIs and communicating with AI. So Frank, I'll hand it back to you.
Awesome. Alrighty, let's go back to Sharing the screen, click through all the fun little things here. So, just as an aside here, the another area that we've been using, this is where we have the digital assistant calling our orchestrations. So in this particular case, like we've set up a digital assistant. This is just on a E1 page, and I can just say good morning for those that are on the other side in another time zone. But I could click on this. So this could be mobile. Here we've decided to put it on a desktop, but the digital assistant, basically chatbot, however you would like to call it, there's various names. It's a little bit more intelligent. This is a development systems and a live demo. So if something misbehaves, I apologize in advance. Slightly different system here, but basically in this case, this was doing some of the manufacturing, and I might say where it comes back here, it should prompt me back in a moment and allow me to kind of see some of my work order routings. But basically, if you do have questions, I believe you can put some of them in there. And so what we're trying to do is we'll try to finish up, so you have 5 minutes or so to either take a bio break before the next one. Yeah, so I messed this up. The person that was going to demo this, I apologize, was unable to attend today. So I'm not the best one to be demoing applications, being on the tech side. But in particular on this one, I did that part incorrectly.
Hey Frank, Drew actually just finished demoing the same thing here, so that recording's up and available, so people can go check that out.
There we go. So we got someone else that actually knows how to ask it.
The manufacturing digital assistant session from Drew Robb. It was just about an hour ago.
Then I will stop doing that. All right. So we left about 5-6 minutes for questions. If anybody does have any, you go ahead and either open it. Do you do open mic, Scott, or is it?
No, it'd have to go through either the Q&A at the top right there, or I'm not sure where it is on their end, but there's a chat or a Q&A tab.
Okay.
I don't see any yet, so like I said, we got about 5 minutes. We can see if anybody has anything.
Yeah, again, the nice thing about it too, just to give you guys what we were talking about in this respect. Here we go. I'll put this up so it's got our email addresses and all that. The other neat thing about it is, let's say if you were on an earlier tools release, maybe you're in release 23, again, one of the things that you can do is consider, this is in OCI, you could set up a trial edition. So the trial editions get released usually twice a year. So like when they just announced the release 25 update 2 for the tools 9293, which just came out a couple weeks ago, you can install that into an image. The cost is usually not too bad, somewhere in the range of maybe, depending on the processors and what you ask it for, maybe somewhere in the $30 to $100 a month. So it's a complete E1 system. So yeah, I just see a question. Do we need an active OCI tendency to use the OCI APIs via orchestrations? The answer to that is yes. I'll go into detail again on it on this Thursday, but basically, if you want to use any of the OCI services, you need to have a tendency, Oracle accounts, in order to set up an API key with the appropriate authority to those. I mean, you may not have to have any compartments or anything in there. Like what we're doing here, what Carl was demoing, we've got an OCI trial edition. So, we can do whatever we want with it or throw it away after 3 months, 6 months, whatever. And that's one way. The other one I was demoing, that's in our ERP Suites data center. So we're calling the same OCI tenant to do that. But yeah, you do have to have some kind of, registration and all that. Like I said, it's a consolidation of multiple pieces here. You have your E1 orchestration, and then an orchestrator, whether that's on premise, in AWS Cloud, Oracle Cloud, Azure Private Cloud, whatever that may be. Then to be able to use the various OCI APIs, you do have a tenancy of some sort, an account, in order to authorize to use those APIs, because you don't want to be willy-nilly with some of that. Also, same thing with object storage. When you productionize this, you're probably going to want to have certain accounts for the different OCI API calls, so they can only get to maybe certain services, or you set off some object storage that's walled off, that is just for that particular user, those type of things.